bump,
Bum,
bump,
bum,
ba-da-da,
ba-da-da,
bump,
bum,
bump.
bum.
Bring. It is a Friday, Bendy. Neither happy nor sad. It just sort of is. Welcome to the Blue Review presented by LAX. I'm Marcus Grant alongside Greg Bergman. I don't know where's Parker. Is he still down in South,
So
hanging out with
he he
orcas and
sent
stuff?
he sent me a text before the show saying out today visiting my grandma and I'm on T-Mobile satellite mode up here. So I'm
Oh,
assuming just
so
not great service.
he's like out in the hinterlands somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
all
and
right.
Graham, if you're listening, it says Dustin May in, Dustin May is out on the caption. So thanks.
And then we also just got a weird text from Jeff Spiegel, who is
Very weird.
somewhere off the grid. I guess he's not off the grid if he can send a text message, but joking about the Padres and that sort of thing.
Ha- have you seen this before? It's very very true, and I'll put it up
Yes.
to the screen because so it's basically it's the guy at a urinal and it says L.A. with the Dodgers L.A. and the guy walking in towards the L.A. guy with the San Diego, and he says, "Why are you staring at my junk?" And he says, and then the San Diego says, we live rent free in your head," as he walked right up to him. So I think
You like literally walk right next to
it's
the
over
guy.
here, right? Is that it
Yeah,
right there?
yeah, yeah. That's
Oh,
it. Yep, now we
oh.
got it. Yep, there it is. There it is.
There we go. Yep, it's very true for San Diego fans. They definitely
It's like
do
they
this.
chirp a lot, and then when Dodger fans respond, it's like, "Oh, we live rent free in your head." It's like, well, no, you've been in my ear for a while.
Right.
So,
You're just here. You're just right there.
right, exactly. So, anyway, obviously, no game last night, so a lot of the show is going to be about the trade deadline. What we expect from this team going forward. They do start a weekend series in Tampa Bay against the Rays
Yep.
today. So we can kind of dive into that as well. But before we do any of that, want to, of course, thank the folks at LAX, Los Angeles International Airport, where they are transforming the travel experience, saving guests time. People Mover train, hopefully up and running early next year. So that is a good thing for sure. For more information, you can go to flylax.com/transforming LAX. Okay, so the trade deadline has come and gone. I know yesterday on this show you said you would be a little bit disappointed if they did not pull off a big move. So I can assume that here we are 24 hours later and you are a tad bit disappointed.
Yeah, I'm a tad bit disappointed. I think there's two ways to look at it, and I could be very, just thoughtful about it and be like, yeah, everything's fine. It's all great. And the biggest thing that's at this trade deadline is not about the guys that we got. It's about getting Blake Snell back. It's about getting eventually Michael Kopech and Brusdar Gatterall, and that Blake Trinan figures himself out, and Max Muncy's on his way back. And that really is the trade deadline moves. And so it didn't need to go out and do anything. Or I can be honest with you guys and be honest with you and say, yeah, I'm disappointed. I would have liked something more, and especially in the form of an outfielder and probably a back end piece into the bullpen, because our bullpen kind of is a little bit of a mess right now with guys not doing what they're supposed to do in Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates, and even Blake Trinan, even though he just came back, a little bit of rust. So I would have liked somebody for the back end of the bullpen. When Ryan Helsley went to the Mets, I was disappointed. At that point, I figured, okay, maybe we can get David Bednar or something like that. No David Bednar. He went to the Yankees. All the top end guys in the back of the bullpen went somewhere else. I understand Andrew Friedman, Marcus, and he does not want to give up a lot, especially for the back end of the bullpen. Does not want to give up prospects and different pieces for relief pitching. Get it? I agree with it. I think that we just have so many pieces in the minor league system at this point that are blocked, and I just don't know if they're ever going to make it to this level. So trying to make a window, a Shohei window, if you want to call it that, really maximize that. I think you had to go a little bit more all in, getting Stephen Kwan, getting in a back end bullpen relief, not giving up everybody, but still giving up enough so that we have a good run towards this, because the back end of the bullpen, and no matter what, Alex Call is not the answer in left field.
No, Alex Call is not going to be the answer in left field. Yeah, it was, you know what it was? This trade deadline felt like if last year all they had done was like Tommy Edman, right? And
Yeah,
in retrospect, that worked out well. I mean, Edman was amazing
sure.
throughout the late season and the postseason, what have you. But when we talked about the trade deadline last year, it was, oh, they also got Tommy Edman, right? Like that wasn't the big prize for the trade deadline. And so that's kind of what this whole thing felt like. I looked at this as in a couple of ways. One, I think they were interested in trying to get that big bullpen name, but I think they looked around and they saw the asking price for a lot of these guys, and they saw what teams were paying to get guys, right? When you look at what the Padres gave up to get Mason Miller, when you look at what the Mets gave up when they bring in a Helsley and a Rogers, I think the Dodgers looked at that and said, yeah, we don't have the stomach to make these moves, especially as you mentioned, for back end bullpen guys where it comes and goes really quickly. One year you are great, the next year you are struggling to find it. I mean, I think Tanner Scott is kind of a good example of that this year. The other thing that I thought they did is once they decided, okay, we're not going to pay for, a bigger name, a recognizable name, I think they decided to, I don't want to say buy lottery tickets, but sort of kind of recycle the system, the farm system a little bit, right? Because, we talked about, the three-way trade the other day, bringing in guys that are not going to be here right away, may not be here for a couple of years, right? I mean, that trade they made with the Rays and the Reds, Serenowski is probably the quote unquote prize out of that whole thing. And he's the guy that right now is in high A. So I think they were trying to sort of recycle because on top of not bringing in big names, they said goodbye to a lot of familiar names. Dustin May is gone. Hunter Fiducia is gone. James Outman is gone. These are guys that, 4 years ago or so were expected to maybe be the future of this organization. And for one reason or another, it just never happened. So Greg, to me, just felt like, okay, well, we're going to send some of these guys away. We're going to try to replenish a little bit. And we're going to hope that the guys that we're getting back health-wise are going to be enough to help us make a run at this thing.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. And by the way, if everybody is healthy, you can't really predict health, and you hope that everybody's healthy. But if everybody is healthy, I still believe that this is the best roster in all of baseball. That it just hands down, up and down, all the way through. There's other teams got better. Other teams really made moves, including the Padres. They always make moves. I don't understand how they still have prospects at this point. They gave away their number. I think it was, if I might be wrong on which ones they are, but I believe it was the 1, 3, 4, 6, 11, 12, 16, 17, 18. Like, it was ridiculous the amount of prospects that they gave away in their farm system. And the Dodgers didn't do that. They actually brought in 4 top 25 prospects that are now into their farm system. But none of that actually means anything for the big club. So yes, I think you're right. They went on the margins, and I think that's, it's fine. And if everybody gets healthy, that'll work out. And Alex Call could be somebody that makes a difference as a platoon for Michael Conforto. Sure. I don't agree with moving big name pieces like Josue De Paula or Zaire Hope for a bullpen piece because of that whole thing. That's why I really liked Ryan Helsley. He's a free agent at the end of the year. You probably wouldn't have to give up as much and would have been able to help for just this year. I don't think they did enough to help the team this year and for moving forward into the postseason. Now, sure, this Gervais kid who's 6'10", maybe he can help in the middle of the, like, if somebody goes down, like if somebody only goes 4 innings and we need a middle relief pitcher, sure, that could help. I think Brock Stewart will help, especially against righties. He's going to be a big piece, I believe. But Alex Call, like, I was looking stuff up, Marcus, about Alex Call, and Brandon Gomes had a quote, and the quote went something like he's a God. I kept it up here and now I can't find it. This is ridiculous. But he said something like along the lines of, oh man, I lost it. It was something along the lines of, like, he's really hard to game plan against and he's really tough to get out. This guy is a 30-year-old platoon player that has never played more than 120 games in one season. He's only played in the big leagues for 3 years and he's 30 years old. So if he was really that hard to get out, I feel like he would have been playing maybe just a little bit more on the Washington Nationals. So I mean, I love talking him up, and maybe has great plate discipline, and maybe he is good in the outfield and a good defender, and is really good against lefties, and that's exactly what we need. Awesome, somebody like that to platoon with Conforto is great. However, you didn't do enough for the outfield defense. That means that we're going to have games, as long as, depending on what happens with Edman and Muncy coming back, that we could have Conforto in left, Teo in right, and that is terrible for your outfield defense. I don't foresee that being a good thing in a playoff game. I don't know how you feel about that.
I mean, it's not great, right? And I guess the other part of it is you no longer have James Outman to bring in as a defensive replacement, right? You can't.
I guess it's Alex Call.
You can't bring him off the bench in the 8th inning and then move Pages to, say, left field or something like that. That's no longer an option. Here is a quote, though, by the way, from Brandon Gomes. It definitely is not the one I think you were trying to refer to. They asked about Call maybe platooning with Michael Conforto. And Gomes says, I think the way Michael's swinging it right now, he's handling both sides. I think we have the opportunity to move Alex around. So I don't anticipate you're going to see a Conforto Call platoon. That makes me sort of wonder what exactly Alex Call's role on this ball club is going to be. I think we sort of wait and see about this whole thing. I do want to ask you, though. Go ahead.
Sorry, real fast. There's two ways to look at that, though. Is that while Conforto is hot, he'll get the majority. But once he falls off, because I assume that's what's going to happen, he's going to – Alex Call will step into that. And by the way, the quote was, he's a straight grinder who is incredibly frustrating to game plan for and get out. But he only plays 70 games a year. Okay, go ahead.
I want to ask, do you think part of the, I guess, lack of urgency is because they won a World Series last year? And not that they don't want to win it again this year, right? Like, don't get it wrong. But do you think there's more urgency? Do you think they're more willing to push the chips in if they hadn't won one last year?
Yes, I do think there would be more urgency if they didn't win. That by them winning a title last year, it gave them a little bit of a
it buys you a year or two, right? In theory,
right. Yeah, they do want to win. They are not trying to not. I mean, they wouldn't spend $1 billion in the off season right. if they weren't trying to win another. They very much want this to be the Dodger era, where every single World Series has the Dodgers in it. Obviously, you're not going to win every single one of them, but they want to be fighting for that every single year, 100%. And that doesn't always mean going for it all out in the trade deadline. My frustration is that you have all of these prospects that may never make it. Gavin Lux was the number one prospect in baseball. I don't know if he was baseball, but he was for the Dodgers.
I think he was the number one all baseball for a while.
He very well could have been. Bobby Miller was the number one guy. They didn't pan out. Like some of these guys that you have down there that are playing well in AAA and AA and High A are not going to pan out. So moving off of them for a piece like a Steven Kwan, for example, that you're under team control for another 2 years and can help you this year and help your defense like that, change everything. I think that this was a time. If you really want to be trying to be the era of the Dodgers, you got to go for it a little bit and you get rid of some of the guys that you got down there that are not actually going to make it up there because they're blocked. I don't know.
It's the old Family Guy joke, right? Like I could take Steven Kwan or I could take the mystery box. That could be anything, even Steven Kwan. Sort of that. So I get where you're coming from on that for sure. A question in the chat. I saw this from Lucy Chin. Do you think in some ways the front office is sending a message to the players that you all got paid? Now we need you to play up to your standards. We are not trading our prospects. I mean, could this be just Andrew Friedman, Brandon Gomes, everybody saying, hey, look, man, like we built this team as is to win. We're putting us on your shoulders to actually go out and win.
So, yeah, maybe it's a little bit of it. I don't think that's the way that Friedman works. So I'm not fully in on that, but I can see where you're coming from with that. I do think that because he spent so much, Friedman spent so much in bullpen in the offseason to not spend at the trade deadline, that was really something that happened. I don't know. I feel like they should have done a little bit more, especially when you're seeing everybody else, especially the Padres. Look what they did. They went out and got Mason Miller. They went out, they were making move after move after move. It was what they do. You have to give it up to them. They don't win the World Series. It doesn't actually go anywhere, but but they go all in every single year and give up like 5 of their top 10 prospects every single year, and it still doesn't go anywhere. But I mean, at least they go for it.
Hey, at least they're selling fish tacos in October down there, So
Right.
they got that going for them for sure. Yeah. So I mean, I think overall, if you're giving this trade deadline a grade, I don't know, C minus. There's nothing about it that moves the needle. And hey, look, I'll say this, who knows, right? We're looking at this on paper as we talk right now, not having seen any of these guys in uniform and on the field. And I've heard this said plenty of times that a lot of times it's hard to grade a trade until several years down the line. Who knows? Maybe Alex Call blossoms into something or what have you. But right now, I'm going to give it a C minus. What grade would you give it?
Yeah, a C minus. And I see in here that Hawaiian Kira is saying making big trades does not guarantee a World Series win. Totally agree with you. That was what we're talking about just with the Padres. But you want to give yourself as many options as you possibly can, and especially when the options in the minor league system are not ever, for the most part, going to make it up here. It's a little bit tough in that sense. But yeah, C minus for me too, because I just don't. It's not enough. I think Brock Stewart will be a good piece, and maybe you're right. Maybe Alex Call turns into the next Tommy Edman and is the NLCS MVP and is just fantastic in the postseason. Maybe, but yeah. I mean, I don't have high hopes for that. And I see people talking about Kike. Kike is great in October. Like postseason, Kike is a real thing. Playoff Kike,
yeah.
But I mean, it is until it isn't, because he's aging and he's hurt right now, so he has to come back up and get back to who he is. You just can't rely on playoff Kike.
I don't know if you saw this. Ken Rosenthal apparently just thought the contenders did not do enough at the deadline. I think he was sort of disappointed with the action at the trade deadline. I mean, I guess I don't think you can say the Padres. I don't think you can point at the Padres. I don't think you can point at the Mets, because I feel like they did a lot to upgrade their bullpen over the last couple of days. But I guess generally he just felt like, the quote was, the goal of the sport should be the last team standing. I don't know that enough teams look at it that way.
It's interesting.
It is interesting, but I also feel like some of this is a symptom of, one, the expanded playoff, where you have way more buyers than sellers. And because of that, the sellers are asking for a ton, right? Yeah. And sort of, I think what we talked about with the Dodgers, that, I think it's hard for a lot of front offices to justify giving up the potential future of your organization for a guy that you might only have for a year or two. And I think especially with the fluid nature of bullpen guys, I just think the way the system is set up right now has sort of kind of dampened the enthusiasm of the trade deadline.
Oh, totally. You're right. There's way, way, way less sellers. Although I did feel like the NL West kind of gave up a little bit. Like the
Giants definitely waved the flag.
The Giants waved the flag. The Diamondbacks waved the flag. I didn't see any moves either way from the Rockies.
The Rockies don't have anybody that people want.
Right. No, they don't. But either way, like those, and weirdly enough, the Angels were buying, which I don't understand in the slightest, because they're the Angels and just buy year after year. It was strange. But either way, yeah, I agree with you. There wasn't a lot of sellers out there. All those teams, by the way, the NL West, are not selling to the Dodgers, so you can just cut them out. Not. Yeah, so it's interesting that, because it is the last man standing, and that's the way that baseball is such a crapshoot in the playoffs. It's the most crapshootiest.
Yeah.
Is that a word? Crapshootiest playoffs. Yeah, crapshootiest playoff in all of sport. So it feels weird that you don't go. Not every team really goes for it. I actually agree with Ken Rosenthal there.
Yeah, I mean, I do get it. I
agree with you too.
I guess I see both sides of it, right? And I think some of it is because of all the sports, the baseball trade deadline generally tends to be the most exciting, and it's the one that I think moves the needle. I think the most too, right? I mean, the NFL trades rarely happen. They rarely involve big name players in the NFL. The NBA is just so trade happy that it's hard to follow, right? You get guys like getting traded and cut and salary moves. I always felt like baseball has sort of the right amount of player movement and the right amount of big name player movement, and so many times, those guys kind of make a change. I mean, I thought it was interesting with the Hall of Fame ceremony, last weekend, that everybody pointed to CC Sabathia going to the Brewers and the run he went on with Milwaukee after the trade deadline as just kind of the example of what the baseball trade deadline can be. So,
Oh,
uh,
that's a great one. I
yeah.
totally forgot about that one. He just shoved when
Not
he
only did
got
he
to Milwaukee.
shove, he raked. I mean, he hit.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I do remember after that, because he was a free agent, I believe, after that season,
Went to the
and
Yankees, right?
he did go to the Yankees, but there was real talk that an NL team could sign. Like, I was sort of hoping maybe the Dodgers would take a shot at him.
Yeah.
Because he said that was one of these things that he's like, I like hitting. I was like, I want to be able to maybe hit occasionally. And then the Yankees, dump trucked a bunch of money on him, and he went to New York.
It's like, okay, that's where I'll go. And
okay, fine. I don't really need to hit that bad. It's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Here's a question from Laura.
Yes.
Lara. Question. It says question in big letters. Question, like it does
Ooh.
on the Dodger Heads podcast with Jeff Spiegel.
Ooh.
Jeff Spiegel out today, by the way. If you didn't notice, do you think the so-called resurgence? I like that she put so-called. You should have just put quotes in there too.
Quotes.
Yeah. the so-called resurgence of Conforto kept Dodgers from obtaining a better outfielder.
I think it lessened their urgency to go out and get somebody. I think they were really going to go heavy after an outfielder, but as we've talked about the last few days, Conforto has been so good at the plate in July. I think they looked around and said, okay, I think it's more along the lines of the Conforto they thought they were getting when they signed him in the offseason. And so I do think that, because he started hitting, defensively, he's still a circus, but at least at the plate, he's given you something. And I think the front office said, all right, well, maybe we don't have to, really push the chips in to get an outfielder at this point.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you. It's because of how he's played at the plate, and because of the patience at the plate. His on base percentage is going way up, so he's getting on base way more. The defense just absolutely bothers me so much, because we talk about it all the time.
Because it always comes into play in the playoffs at some point.
It came into the play multiple times last year in the playoffs against the Mets, against the Yankees, especially against the Yankees. They went into that series knowing they're not good defensively. Yeah. They do not make the extra effort. They make mistakes we can take advantage of and win this series. And they did. They made mistakes. They took all those mistakes and they pushed them forward. So I feel like defense is such a big portion of what this team was built around, and they just didn't address it at all. Yeah. And it's kind of, maybe Alex Call is the next coming of a great left fielder. I don't know, but that still leaves Teo and right. The only way this gets fixed, and I know we don't have enough time to talk about this, and maybe we can on Monday, is if they put Mookie back in right. And I just don't see it ever happening.
That's not happening.
Right. So it's not even worth talking about. But at the same time, that's what will fix the defense,
Yeah, no, it goes a long way toward fixing the defense for sure. But yeah, I don't see that happening at all.
Me neither.
So we can forget about that. All right, game 1 of a 3-game series against the Tampa Bay Rays at George Steinbrenner Field. As the Trop,
Kershaw Day.
It is Kershaw Day. The Trop's still getting worked on after hurricane damage. So the Rays. Everybody talks about the A's playing at a minor league park. We all sort of forget about the fact that the Rays are playing. Although the Rays have the excuse of it wasn't their fault. The A's shot themselves in both feet repeatedly, but that's a different conversation. 4:35 first pitch. Clayton Kershaw going against Shane Baz. Rest of the weekend looks like Blake Snell against Drew Rasmussen on Saturday and Yoshinobu Yamamoto on Sunday against Joe Boyle. To the Dodgers, hoping to start August with a bang. We'll be back with you on Monday to talk about that. Anyway, I appreciate you hanging out with us as always in the chat. Stick around. First pitch coming up. Travis and DeMarco and Greg Bergman, and then selfishly, I will be in. I'm going to just tell you that I'm going to be in. Myself, Andy Kamenetsky on Mason and Ireland. So for those of you who are sick of me, good news, you get more me.
So anyway, 3 of us, 3 in a row.
We get 3 days in a row. Me and AK will be on with you, Mason and Ireland today, and then 4 to 7 on Saturday and Sunday from Rams camp. So if you're going out to Rams camp this weekend, come by, say hello, whatever. In the meantime, thanks to LAX as well. Thanks to everybody in the chat. That'll do it for this edition of the Blue Review presented by LAX. For Greg, I am Marcus. Thanks to Graham for getting us up on the interwebs today. Back with you on Monday, 8:30 to 8:55. Enjoy the weekend. Think blue, everybody. We'll see you.